So now I am going to discuss the process or the method you should follow for carrying out a typical say the value engineering say for carrying out a typical value engineering project. Now during these lecture sessions I will be covering value engineering or the value analysis. This I will explain that that how do you carry out such an analysis, and usually we follow a particular process, and in this process there are 7 steps. These the steps are interrelated, so we'll be explaining all the steps in detail, and then once this is known, then for implementing a value engineering say the project, then what kind of the framework you may suggest. So a generic framework for VE implementation we'll discuss, where all the important points we'll highlight. Okay, and before you take up a project on value engineering or value analysis in a given manufacturing systems, so you must learn the generic framework by heart. And of course, whether you must know that while you carrying out a value engineering exercise, whether you are in a right path or not. So several questions you may have, and so that's why a checklist for value analysis we must refer to, and this checklist you must know what is this checklist. So this will be your coverage during this lecture session. Now we have already mentioned that value engineering is applied at the design stage. As such, as far as process of the carrying out value engineering or value analysis say exercise is concerned, or the project is concerned, there is as such no difference as far as the activities to be carried out or the tasks to be assigned, but the VE is applied at the design stage. Already we have mentioned in proposed new products, and VA is applied at the production stage existing products. However, in both cases a 7-step procedure is followed for carrying out the whole exercise on value engineering or value analysis. Now what are these steps? So let me explain, or let me tell you all these steps, and in each steps what actually you are supposed to do. Now first phase is the preparation phase. Now this is very important in fact. Now in this preparation phase, this is your starting point. A team of 3 to 7 members is formed. That means what we are assuming, that each and every value engineering or value analysis project is a unique one, and there must be, it is a team effort. So that's why the team has to be formed. Is it okay? And you form the team in such a way that it is possible for you, suppose as a team leader, suppose you become the team leader, and you form the team in such a way that it is possible for you to apply, and not only for you, it is possible for each and every member of the team to apply an interdisciplinary approach. Is it okay? That means the problem of the cost reduction, the problem of material substitution, the problem of value enhancement, these are the 3 issues. These problems are very complex in nature, and there are different dimensions, and each dimensions may represent or may require to address a particular dimensions you may require say the knowledge in a particular discipline. This has been the case with majority of the case studies related to value engineering or value analysis. So the team has to be formed, and a multidisciplinary team you have to form, so that interdisciplinary approach you can have for value engineering or value analysis exercise. Now, what is the role of this team? That means their responsibility is to examine a product from pre-engineering stage through delivery to customers, including redesign. That means all the stages you should look into. That means given a product, the team members must be aware of its design process and why a particular design is being offered at this stage, what are the reasons, and whether there exist say the alternate designs, and what are these alternate designs for the product. The details say you must have in your knowledge base, plus what sort of the materials you use, what is the existing the production process, how do you deliver it, okay, and during the delivery time or when you distribute the product to the ultimate users, then what sort of problems you face related to say the product performance, the performance at the site, and for the industrial product, or the types of complaints you get from say the customers for say both industrial product as well as the consumer products. So all these the information you must consider. That means a total systems approach you must be able to apply. So this is the preparation, and this is the preparation phase. The next phase, what you do now, normally what we find, so suppose you deal with in a given situation some say the 200 parts or 200 the items, say in a at a particular instant in time, and obviously the value engineering exercise you can undertake for each and every item. Now obviously with a limited time and resource, you have to be very, very selective. Now while you select the few products for value engineering say the study, now you must be able to specify the selection norms. So this is referred to as the project selection. So what do you do basically? Now the project is selected during this phase. A particular project on VE or VA is selected based on a priori estimate of return on investment. That means you need to the study as per the VE or VA norms a particular product, and suppose you select this product, a particular item, suppose you select. Now obviously there will be a study, and associated with the study there is a cost. So you must be able to estimate that what is the expected the cost of study, where both the fixed cost as well as the variable cost you must consider. And then this cost is essentially an investment. That means you expect a certain return out of it. So what are the benefits you might get? Okay, so that also you must have very clear idea. That means you explore all sorts of possibilities, and you say that if we carry out this value engineering say the study for the given item, the expected benefits in terms of value enhancement, in terms of the cost reduction, is this much. And so obviously you are in a position to estimate, you must be in a position to estimate the return on investment. And out of many possible projects, that means each project representing a product or an item, the one that has the potential of maximum value increase or maximum cost reduction or both is taken as a priority. Okay. So, this is your goal, and this way we define the return or the benefits out of this, say, value engineering or value analysis study. So, the second phase is very, very important. It may so happen that out of say the 200 products or 200 items you are dealing with at this point in time, you select say the 10 items as the possible candidate for say the VE project or VA project. Okay. So, this is called project selection. Next, what you do, if you select a particular item, then related to that item you need to collect information, and obviously during this information gathering phase, you need to collect all the relevant information, and this the set of information usually is a very large set you have. So, what you try to do, that means at this step information on the items or the products concerned, okay, you need to collect. So, what are the relevant information? The information is essentially you refer to the specifications, existing specifications of the product, the drawings, materials being used for the given product, processes, that means you need to refer to the process plan, and if it is the standard item, or suppose you have been producing this item for a long time, obviously you refer to its drawing, it refers to its process plan, and the processes are known, that their sequences also will be known. Then the tolerances, you will get an idea about the tolerances, that means for which quality characteristics of the item or the product you have very tight tolerance, and for which quality characteristics you have say the loose tolerances. So, these detailed information you must have, including the chemical composition, working conditions, the special conditions or the users. Okay. So, you must have the knowledge about this, and then the cost of materials, existing cost of materials, and while you propose this cost equation, what are the cost elements you consider right at this point in time. So, in the process what you must do, that means you study the existing cost equation and the components of the product, the cost structure, and then the freight and packaging, processing materials, what is the processing cost, the freight cost and the packaging cost. So, all these details you must have, and you must have an information system. So, if you have say the manual systems for information gathering, so maybe it may be difficult for you. So, many a time what you do, in order to make the entire exercise a regular say the assignment or say regular job, that means the proper information system support you must have. So, the many a time these days you are going for say the implementing a computerized say the information system. So, many a time support from suppliers is considered a prerequisite, particularly on information about new materials. So, this point is to be noted, because the whole exercise may be dependent on say the to what extent you are able, or if you can go for material substitution. Obviously, if you have say the close relationship with your suppliers, or the supplier base you have created already, the company has got its the fixed supplier base. So, the suppliers may give you a lot of information regarding material substitution. The next phase is the evaluation phase. This is very, very critical, and you have to evaluate the product, okay, from a number of perspectives. So, these perspectives are already known to you, but you have to follow the procedure as provided by its well accepted framework. So, at this step the functions are systematically evaluated with the purpose of eliminating unnecessary costs. Okay, because so what you need to do, that means once the cost elements are identified, then you classify them, you categorize them under the two categories, the necessary cost element and unnecessary cost elements. So once you identify these unnecessary cost elements, so you need to say think of ways and means of eliminating them. However, while evaluating the function of a product, that means essentially it reflects the performance of the product, desired quality has to be maintained. Is it okay? That means if the quality, there is no compromise on the quality or the same level of quality you have to the maintain, and if not the improved the quality, you are able to say the prescribe for the product. In VE or VA, functions are to be described in specific ways. So this when you go through this process, there is a standard format. So you have to follow this format, and where what you do, the functions are classified in three parts. The first, given a particular product, you must be able to identify that what is this primary function. Like for a pen, so the primary function is it writes. Okay, then you have a secondary function. That means you can hold it. Is it okay? So the holding features, and the tertiary function could be, there are many other say the functions, the way it is assembled. Okay, that is whether that is acceptable or not. Okay, so in three categories you have to mention the functions of a product. So the first category is the primary function, for which this has been designed. The second function, or the second one, is the secondary function, and then also you can go to the tertiary level if really needed. Then functions are described or defined in verb and noun. So when you take up, just you make a note, when you take up the case study, so you will come to know how the sentences are made, and indicating, actually when you go through these the sentences, you will get an idea about the products, the primary function or the secondary functions or the tertiary function. Now the next stage, that is the fifth step, is the creation phase, and this is very, very important. As I have already pointed out, that you must have adequate creative mind or the creativity, and so now what you need to do, essentially you need to in altogether the new product many a time, and it's not that with some incremental the changes you recommend, and then you say that this is a value engineering exercise. So usually what has happened through value engineering exercises, you can develop the product, and altogether a different product you may suggest. So this particular phase, this is referred to as the creation step, is very, very important. So what do you do at this step? New designs and manufacturing methods are suggested with which product with higher value can be created. Okay, the team is engaged in brainstorming, for which NGT session, nominal so the group technique, that means and through so the brainstorming sessions, that means the group start thinking about what are the new ways it can be designed so that the value can be enhanced. So the many ideas you deal with, and usually a typical nominal group technique is conducted. Maybe you need to conduct it several times, but this is the only way you can get new ideas for improving the product value. there are several instances, several ways we can do this, but the NGT session, the NGT nominal group technique, that means the structure, the communication process among the team members, it is highly acceptable and say highly effective in majority of the cases. The suggested alternatives evaluated before the select one is developed and the refined for its subsequent implementation and adoption. At the sixth step, you go for selection and the presentation. Out of a number of alternatives suggested, most acceptable one is selected. Is it okay? Usually what happens that through the NGT session, from the team members, you get the different types of say different alternatives for the same product. Now out of all these alternatives, you have to select one. So what you try to do, that means each particular alternative must be evaluated with respect to a set of criteria. So an appropriate selection scheme in terms of assessment based on a number of selection criteria can be used for this purpose. So later on, when we refer to a case study, you will come to know that how out of many alternatives, which one you can select as the best one or the appropriate one. And of course, the last step is implementation and follow-up. And for implementation, you can suggest a different framework, and very soon we are going to discuss that particular framework. But what we are saying that ultimately, you face the problem of implementation. So once it is implemented, then regularly you follow it up. Is it okay? That means you expect some say the good return out of this project, whether actually you are getting this return or not, and if not, then what are the possible reasons, and whether you are able to handle or eliminate those reasons or handle those problems or not properly, so that the return, an increasing return from the project is guaranteed. So at this step, resources are to be committed, okay, many kinds of resources, the many ways you do, and mobilized with consideration of a number of managerial issues. Okay, so these are the 7 steps. Now we discussed a generic framework for value engineering implementations. So the implementation is the last step, is the 7th step, and as implementation is a very the difficult game, it's not that easy. So you have to follow a particular, say, the generic framework, and you also must know that what are in advance what are the possible problems you may come across while you start implementing such a project, and what are the say the mitigation measures you have against all these problems. So how deeply you can think of about its impact and with respect to the several factors, and accordingly you can think of the set of problems possibly you can face or encounter in course of time, and what are the possible causes and what are the counter measures you can take. Okay, you may opt for to address these problems, to remove their causes. So this framework consists of 5 interrelated phases. So the first phase is information, the second phase is the speculation, the third phase is the analysis, and the fourth phase is the development, and the last phase you have the presentation and follow-up. Now this framework is to be applied for a product at production or the design stage. Both technical and managerial issues are to be considered for implement. Please note these points, and that means both technical issues as well as the managerial issues you need to consider. And this framework is present in detail. I am presenting it with a figure so that you can understand the details. At each phase, the key queries to be asked and the kinds of work to be carried out are mentioned. So now before I close this session, I am just referring to this generic framework for VE implementations. So let me just certain points let me elaborate. Like at all these the phases, that means there are 5 phases, and in each phase you are supposed to raise certain questions. Okay, so unless you are able to raise the questions, you will never be able to find out the problem. And but these questions are to be raised in a systematic manner. Like while you are in the information phase, you say that what is it? That means what is this product? What does it do? In clear and specific terms, you must be able to define it. Okay, you must know that what does it do? What does it cost? You must have this idea. What is it worth? That means what is its value? Okay, so in a systematic manner, you must ask these questions. Now, to answer to these questions, you need to get all this information, like get all the facts. Okay, that means you have to refer to the past data, get information from the best source. So it is your duty to identify the best source. Get all available costs. Okay, work on specifics, not generalities. This point I have been telling you all the time, that it is a specific exercise. That means for a specific product you are carrying out such an exercise. Define the functions. You have to define it. Now once you the information phase is completed, then you go to the next phase, that's the speculation. What else might do the job? That means there could be many alternatives. Your main purpose is to get the say the work done, or get the function, or get the function. Now one product you are prescribing, it may so happen that that same function you can get by employing some other means. So this is referred to as a speculation. Seek new information, eliminate the function, simplify, blast and refine. That means entire the product details you must know in all the phases. I have already pointed out. Use creative techniques. The creativity is the key for success. Next phase is analysis. What does that cost? If you suggest some alternative, so you must be in a position to calculate its possible cost. Put on each main idea, evaluate by comparison, evaluate by function. So function is the key, and use expert views. That means it is to be the supported by the experts. Then you go for the development. What will satisfy user needs? Now you think of the customer needs or the user needs. What is needed to implement? So these are the points you go through, and the next, once you complete the 4th phase, then you go to the last phase, that is the presentation and follow up. So what is recommended? Who has to approve it? That means usually you get the sanction of the higher authority. What was done? How much did it save? So all these details we have already referred to. So so these are the preconditions you must have, like say you must use the good human relations, spend the organization's money as your own, and monitor process of review and implementation. So this is the framework you go through, and this is the checklist. So certain questions you ask, so you just go through this checklist. So every material, every part, every operation must pass these tests. So I'll just read it out. Does its use contribute value? Is its cost proportionate to its usefulness? Does it need all of its features? Is there anything better for the intended use? Can a usable part be made by a lower cost method? Okay, so this during the speculation phase you can ask all these questions. Can a standard product be found which will be usable? Is it made on proper tooling considering quantities used? Do material, reasonable labor, overhead and profit total is cost? Is there any cost element you are missing right now? Will another dependable supplier provide it for less? That means whenever you talk about the material substitution, and is anyone buying it for less? That means you must have the knowledge about its market, the product's market. Okay, who are your competitors and at which price your competitor the selling the same product. Okay, so with this knowledge, okay, so now you are in a position to so analyze a particular situation, and obviously in the next the lecture sessions we'll be referring to a case study. So thank you.